All right, let's get this rolling. If you're a new nurse, old nurse, or someone who just wandered in because you heard pharmacology, welcome to Discussions with Dr. G. I'm Dr. G, your slightly sarcastic guide with regrettably way too many stories about medication mishaps and more cats than any one person should admit to. So let's talk about differentiating those good old OTC medications from prescription drugs. On the surface, it seems cut and dry. Prescription meds, you need that nice scribble from the provider. OTCs, you just stroll into the store and toss them in your cart with a bag of Doritos. But here's the kicker. The real difference is deeper than just how you buy them. We're talking about efficacy, safety profiles, and who gets access. See, OTCs are considered, at least in theory, safe and effective for use without direct supervision of a healthcare provider. But that doesn't mean that they're harmless. Prescription meds, they usually need more monitoring or are higher risk, so you need a provider's okay. Here's the thing though. So many people, my Uncle Joe included, think OTC means risk-free, and it doesn't. Joe once tried to take cold medicine he bought at a gas station on top of a cough syrup his doctor prescribed. Did he read any of the labels? No! Ended up feeling way worse, and let's just say he learned that reading tiny print can be very important when it comes to liver function. Anyway, the take home here is just because it's easy to get doesn't mean it's always safe. And that's where we nurses come in. Our job is to help folks separate fact from wishful thinking when it comes to their favorite OTCs. All right, sliding into the riveting, sparkling world of drug regulation. Hang with me here. I promise this matters. The FDA has been running the rodeo since the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938, which basically handed over the regulatory keys. Fast forward to 1951, the Durham-Humphrey Amendment. That's what split drugs into prescription only and OTC. No more free-for-all prohibition-era snake oil. Thank goodness. Kefauver-Harris in 1962 then required clinical trials, so no more cures what ails ya marketing if you couldn't actually prove it. Then came 1999, because nothing says Y2K prep like a standardized drug facts label. Now, every bottle on the shelf has a familiar label: active ingredients, uses, warnings, the works. Fast forward a little bit further, 2005 rolls around, pseudoephedrine goes behind the counter due to meth production. So sometimes the regulatory shift is reaction to chemistry class gone rogue. Now, approval pathways. Some OTCs go through a monograph, basically a recipe book of rules for certain drug types. If it fits, it ships. Others need a whole new drug application, like prescription meds do. Monograph or NDA, either way, the FDA is supposed to keep things in check. So what about nurses? You have to know which OTCs are regulated, restricted, recently reclassified with pseudoephedrine. If your patient is using behind-the-counter stuff or something reclassified, you're on the hook to document it, educate, and potentially call the provider for clarification or follow-up. We're supposed to be the responsible adults, even if our own medicine cabinets say otherwise. All right, let's shift gears to the lineup of common OTCs and their not-so-hidden dangers. First up, analgesics, acetaminophen, aka Tylenol. This is the old reliable, except it's not so reliable if you take any more than you should. I had a parent in the peds unit who, bless her heart, didn't realize the fever reducer, the cough syrup, and the baby Tylenol all had acetaminophen. Little one ended up with elevated liver function tests, and it happens more than you think, and it isn't because people are reckless. It's because the labels are confusing, especially when you're up all night with a sick kid. NSAIDs like ibuprofen and naproxen. These work great for pain and inflammation, unless your patient's got a GI tract that doesn't want to bleed, or kidneys that would rather not retire early. Aspirin is also a classic, But let's not give it to kids. Hello, Ray's syndrome. And remember the bleeding risk for adults. Antacids like Tums and Rolaids. PPIs like omeprazole, also known as Prilosec. People love these, but antacids don't play nice with antibiotics or iron. And PPIs, sure, they save the day with gastroesophageal reflux disease, but they up your risk for fractures and C. diff if you stick with them longer than recommended. Advice? Separate antacids from other meds by at least an hour and keep PPIs short term if at all possible. Laxatives, antidiarrheals. Look, I know talking bowel habits is a crowd pleaser, but these can cause trouble too. Polyethylene glycol, PEG, also known as Miralax, is your friend first line, but stimulants can set up some dependency. And loperamide, also known as Imodium, can tip into opioid territory with overuse, while bismuth can be toxic. It's a salicylate after all. Best advice, hydrate, stop the OTC if diarrhea is lasting past a couple of days, and don't play chemist at home. Then there's antihistamines and nasal steroids. Diphenhydramine or Benadryl makes you sleepy and can send grandma to the floor. But loratadine, Claritin, or cetirizine, Zyrtec, are usually safer. Famotidine, that's Pepcid. Easy on the side effects. Nasal steroids can help if you stick with directions. Otherwise, you risk more than just an irritated nose. Cough and cold products deserve a special mention. Dextromethorphan, also known as Robitussin, can be misused. It sometimes gets abused for hallucinogenic effects, especially in teens. And guaifenesin, Mucinex, you need hydration to work. Always double check for duplicate ingredients. At the end of the day, teach your patients to read the labels, don't double dose, and if anything weird pops up, like weird stools or rash or their ears start to ring, call someone about it. Let's talk red flags and things that make nurses switch. Biggest one, overuse. Too many laxatives, painkillers, decongestants, or switching between products for the same symptom. That little bit more thinking leads straight to toxicity or complications. Then there's outright misuse, like using diphenhydramine or dextromethorphan for a high, or pseudoephedrine for reasons other than a stuffy nose. I had a teenager once who kept showing up with vague symptoms and a bottle of cough syrup. Turns out he was chasing the robo-tripping phenomenon. Not ideal. There's also a whole I self-treat everything issue. Patients combine cold, cough, sleep, and allergy meds, sometimes with the same ingredients repeated 3 times. This is why behind-the-counter systems exist. Drugs like pseudoephedrine are tracked for good reasons. For us nurses, it's all about asking the right questions and really listening when a patient lists their harmless OTCs. Honestly, I go back and forth on whether certain high-risk OTCs should have some kind of pharmacist or nurse check in before you can buy them. On one hand, we can help prevent harm, but then there's the patient autonomy and unnecessary barriers. It's a debate worth having. I just want folks to be safe and informed, not stuck in line for an hour for a bottle of ibuprofen. So how do you pull all this together in real life? Every med reconciliation, you've got to ask about OTCs and herbal supplements. Patients forget or think it's not important. Once you know what they're taking, break down the basics. What it's for, how much they can have it, when they can have it, and most importantly, what could go wrong if they take too much. Do it in plain language, and whenever possible, give written tip sheets. And don't just talk to your patient. If family or caregivers are in the picture, get them involved. Never underestimate the grandma network. Your state's Nurse Practice Act may put some guardrails on what you can actually recommend or hand out, but you should always document OTC use and communicate with providers about potential problems. Collaboration is key. I always say protect thy license and your patient at the same time. Let me paint a quick picture for you, a little role play. Imagine I've got a client who loves her OTC sleeping pills. She doesn't want to give them up, but she's at risk for falls and drug interactions. I might say, hey, I totally get loving your bedtime routine, but these pills can make it easier to trip or mess up with your other meds. Can we try cutting down together, maybe use something safer? Let's come up with a plan so you can rest easily, literally and figuratively. Empathy plus evidence always wins over. Just stop taking it. All right, quick recap. OTCs are not risk-free, and nurses are safety advocates. Label literacy and patient teaching can literally save lives, and our job is to apply that pharmacology knowledge with some real-world clinical judgment. So, keep your ears open, collaborate, document, and never underestimate the power of a good conversation. Thanks for hanging with me, and I'll catch you next time when we tackle another corner of the world of nursing and meds, maybe with fewer cat stories, or maybe not. See you soon.